Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to everyone joining us live on Zoom, but also we are putting this out as a podcast on YouTube. So if you're here listening, enjoying what we're beginning to call neurologically, how are we rewiring ourselves back to love? So just however you are with me, with Phoenix and I joining us in this moment, just welcome. I'm excited to be with you and excited to dive into what I do genuinely experience, not only with myself, my clients, that is the missing link in really being able to move forward and show up in our life the way that we want. And why this is so exciting to me is that science is now beginning to show, not necessarily prove yet, but definitely show and suggest that compassion, that self-kindness is what helps us rewire the brain, and it helps us have those that energy, those thoughts, those feelings that actually help us move forward and follow through. So I'm going to do my best to keep it as succinct as possible. If you've been with me either in person or online before, you know I can talk. So I'm going to do my best to be as succinct as possible. I am grateful that Phoenix is with us. We just went for a long walk, so he's taking a nap, but he wants you to know that he loves you. He's got lots of fans online, so if you're a fan of Phoenix, he does want you to know that he loves you. So cheesy, so ridiculous. I love it. Okay, so I am going to share some information on screen. The intention that we have today is, what if we did a 7-day adventure, a 7-day experiment for a whole new level of kindness, of really being more compassionate, soft, sweet, supportive to ourselves? Can we get our own data, our own results? Did we have more energy? Did we find that we were following through and just more active? Were we changing and growing, or was soft love holding us down? Right? So that is my intention, to inspire as many of you as possible, including myself, to just be more aware of how we're talking to ourselves unconsciously and consciously, how we're treating ourselves. What's the energy that we have for ourselves, because we do have a relationship with ourselves. What's the energy of that? And what's the impact of being so much more kind, supportive, and loving, compassionate, forgiving to ourselves? So let's dive into this information. Alrighty, so a 7-day radical self-kindness adventure. It's up to you. I'm going to give you some information, then some time to curate your own adventure, and we'll see what happens. So our number one intention here is for you to get your own unique experience of what happens when we treat ourselves, when you treat yourself with radical kindness and compassion. Do we do more? Do we grow more? Do we improve? I love to use the gym analogy, but, do we actually do more? Do we go to the gym more if we're incredibly soft and sweet and supportive of ourselves, no matter how we show up, right? So I think if we have an intention to go to the gym 4 times a week and we do that, right, we're loving, we're celebratory, like we're good to ourselves in that outcome. However, what if we only go to the gym twice or once or even 0 times that week? How are we to ourselves? Are we kind? Can we see that that was the best that we had for this week? There was a lot going on. Can we just be soft and supportive? And does that make a difference? Does that then have an impact on next week? Does that actually help us have more energy and more hope and more life force for actually getting to the gym next week? So I do encourage you not to believe me that self-compassion is the answer. but just try it on yourself. See what happens for a week if you radically support yourself with more compassion and kindness. I love this quote from Phoenix. Obviously, as soon as he said it, I wrote it down quickly, and that's how I have this quote. So Phoenix says, "When I feel loved and supported, I naturally want to love and support the entire world." And so that really just is the truth. And that's why I believe it is so important that we focus on self-care and self-kindness and self-compassion first. Because scientifically, we now know that to the extent that we're being compassionate with ourselves, kind, supportive of ourselves, we can then show up for people through that energy. We actually can't have compassion for others before we have it for ourselves. So I just encourage you all to consider that. Alrighty. So this is Dr. Kristen Neff, and I believe that she has done the most phenomenal research on self-compassion that we have. So if by any crazy chance this falls into the arms of Dr. Kristen Neff, oh my Lord, thank you. I love you. Just thank you for your efforts. It's so helpful for me and my work. So this is a quote from her. "Early critics said self-compassion would lead to lazy behavior and low willpower. In their view, we need self-criticism to motivate us to make important changes in our lives. But all the research suggests the opposite. We find that people with high self-compassion show greater motivation to correct their errors." So that energy is definitely also what I experience in my business, working one-on-one with clients. It's hard to get people excited and on board with self-compassion. Most humans do consciously and unconsciously believe that they won't improve if they're kind to themselves when they fall, do less, fail, pretty much are anything less than perfect. And I believe it's one of the number one karmas that we are here to heal. It's almost like we come in wired, because I think it's also a genetic DNA passing down. We're conditioned by our parents, but as we get to an age of adolescence and schooling, there is often that push to do more, and there is all more of a tough love, a hardness, a criticalness in that, rather than the way that we were motivated when we were babies, for example. It was all soft, all kind, all supportive, and I know it sounds a bit radical to say that we're gonna do the best as a human being if we learn to treat ourselves softly and kindly and almost like we would treat a baby learning to walk. But that is what the science is suggesting. So why don't you get your own experiment and let's see what happens. So I do want to say that this is not for everyone, and that truly is okay. So we aren't all here to experience the same things in this beautiful life. And some of us are more here to learn what it feels like to live through the ego. We're here more for the physical world. We are here to manifest money and success and achievement in a physical world thing. That's a beautiful life. That's a beautiful experience. So some people are just more on a journey of ego, of experiencing that. And then others of us, I believe, are more here to experience our spiritual selves, the love, the compassion, the invisible energy that we are. And so consider that if you fell in love with Phoenix, if you follow me, you're probably not that motivated by power and money and all the things in the world. Yes, we want them. Yes, we need them. Yes, we're showing up for them. But perhaps if you're in our inner circle in any way, love does mean the most to you. Being motivated and having a life filled with love, with connection, with compassion is more important to you than lots of cars in the driveway or a fancy house. Yes, we do. We're human. We want those things. But in terms of your priority I'm going to guess that love and kindness is probably more important to you. And if that is true, I'm going to suggest to you that self-compassion is going to be radically helpful, right? If you're kind of in the realms of ego, yeah, being tough love and being hard on yourself actually can work in the short term. It does backfire eventually for everyone. The science shows. But if you are more lined up with love and kindness as the biggest values in your life, then self-compassion is going to work wonders for you. It is actually going to be way more motivating for you than criticism and self-esteem, more related motivations. So and this again is thanks to Dr. Kristen Neff. Self-compassion versus self-esteem and self-criticism, we've come a long way in the last, say, 10 to 20 years. Psychology used to value self-esteem and self-criticism, well, not necessarily above self-compassion. It's just that self-compassion wasn't really in the mix then, but the priority was on self-esteem and self-criticism in a personal development space. We now have overwhelming research that supports that it is much more motivating to be kind and compassionate and soft and sweet to yourself than it is to focus on self-esteem. And I will talk a little bit about that, and self-criticism. But again, we're here to get our own experiment and to find out for ourselves. So what is just incredibly interesting, and I will say that I shared an entire event last year that is online, and I will repost it, that really goes into the science of this, because what we found that there was a correlation between the 80s, when there was this very strong emphasis on self-esteem and the will to win, and there was a lot of focus on self-esteem, and what that created was a comparison, competition. And we are now seeing the aftermath of that obsession with self-esteem versus self-compassion. So rather than thinking you're the shit, right? Are we just being kind and loving to ourselves no matter what's going on? Do we have to be number one to love ourselves and be great? Or can we love and appreciate ourselves no matter what's going on in our world, right? That's the real difference here. So the research shows that there is now a correlation between that focus on self-esteem and self-criticism with bullying, narcissism, and perfectionism. It's not going to be news to you that bullying's a little bit of an opportunity on this planet right now. And we're learning how to deal with that. We're learning how to love that dynamic of bullying. And really, it is about making one feel better than another. And that has, we believe, actually come from this obsession with being the best, of winning, of being overly focused on self-esteem. The second is narcissism. Some of us do learn to defend our ego at all costs in order to be perceived as number one. Some of us will go to extreme measures to defend that illusion that we are the best. And it's created some interesting adventures on the planet. I won't speak specifically to any people, but I'm sure there are some people that come to mind for you in the public eye. And third, and this is probably the most important for all of us today, is it's created this obsession with we've got to be perfect to feel good about ourselves. Just look at social media. Most people are only posting what's perfect. So there is a problem with that, right? And I do believe that self-compassion and self-kindness not only helps us as a community move forward, but definitely helps us move forward in lives in ways that we want in our life. Alrighty, so the Dalai Lama said it better than I can, and that is, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So that's what we're really talking about today. If you want to be happy, Let's really grow those muscles, learn the skills of self-compassion. So today is all about choosing your own adventure. And when I was kind of just quickly putting this information together this morning, these 4 things came up, and I'm actually going to touch on each one over the next 4 weeks. For this 7-day adventure, I'm going to encourage people to focus on enoughness, and I'll tell you why in a little bit, but there are so many different ways we can learn to be kind. How exciting is that, right? Positive self-talk, celebrating the small stuff, and caring more about our own needs and feelings. And in that, I don't mean caring more about us than others, but how wherever you're at right now in terms of your ability to care about your own needs, your own feelings, care more. Just up that ante, move that needle towards, I do care about what my needs are and what my feelings are. This is so true. Did you know that we all feel not enough? Actually, my husband related to me a story that someone had shared with him, that the 30 most powerful women in the world, including Oprah, Ariana Huffington, the 30 most powerful women on the world gathered in a small retreat. And what they all shared, what they all had in common, is that they feel not enough. So let's really ground that this feeling of not enough is a human karma, and it's just a part of being human, and it is profoundly disconnected to reality. So you can be Oprah, and I think that she kind of does enough, right? Anyone else out there looking at her empire, her incredible impact on the world, and think that she's not doing enough, right? It's so inspiring. She's incredible. And yet she feels like she's not doing enough. She feels like she is not enough. So this experience of not enoughness is just something that we all have as humans. And the beautiful antidote to that is self-kindness, is self-compassion. And I believe it's why we're here on this planet. We're here to learn how to love ourselves, not when we're shiny and perfect, but when we've fallen down, when we're failing, when we're aware of just these moments when we're ordinary and as we are, and how can we just love all the colors, all the versions of that. So learning to feel that whatever we did today was enough might be the most powerful way we can begin to live more from love and courage and less from doubt, fear, lack, and scarcity. We don't have a lot of research about this right now, but I have my own independent survey, and now working with hundreds of clients, I can say that that's true. Again, from Dr. Kristen Neff, people who have high levels of self-compassion are generally more proactive. Remember that if you really want to motivate yourself, love is more powerful than fear. It's exciting to see when and how the science is going to catch up to that. So who's in? Let's put this into practice and let's get our own experience. I will, again, just ground in, for those of you that are very kinesthetic as I am, this metaphor might be very helpful. And even if you're not a kinesthetic, feely kind of person, this metaphor will be helpful to all of us. So I'm going to encourage you to see that a really quick shortcut to having self-kindness and treating ourselves with self-kindness is calling forward how we treat a baby learning to walk. So just be aware of that, right? Be aware of you're the parent in this moment, and you're teaching a baby, your baby, to learn to walk. So how are you supporting them? Number one, I'm guessing, is it's soft. It's in their own time. And as we learn how to have more of an energetic, loving relationship with ourselves, being soft is something that the mind will never understand, but that our heart completely gets. So sometimes it's hard to know, well, what's the loving thing to do? What's the kind thing to do? Sometimes our head will override too much. So to bypass the mind, we can use an intention of how can we be softer to ourselves? How can we be kinder through being softer with ourselves in this moment? The other thing that's aware to me about how I would support and love a baby learning to walk is that there is no push, there's no pressure, and that we naturally trust the timing, right? We just somehow magically know that the baby's doing its best, right? We know the beautiful little baby, they're not slacking, and that's why they're falling down. They're not trying hard enough. They're doing their best. And with that comes the baby is always enough, right? It's just we get it when we're a baby, but then over time we start to slip into these illusions that we're not doing enough. And the way forward is to be supportive and kind to ourselves, not to be pushy and pressuring and think that we're in any kind of timing other than actually what is perfect for us. Phoenix has some more encouragement for you. Be kind. We're all doing the best we can, and that's just my reality. Did you have more to say on that, Phoenix? No, but he does want you all to first do this experiment with us. So consider your own life over the last few months and become aware of something you didn't follow through on recently. So just be aware of something that was really important to you, but you didn't show up, or it didn't go as well. You know, it wasn't followed through on the way that you wanted. So just call forward that moment. And now be aware of what was your energy towards yourself. You might be aware that's still your energy towards yourself. There still might be a hardness or a criticalness, or there might be love and compassion. But just be aware of how do you feel about that? What's your energy towards yourself? Was it kind and soft and trusting? Or when you didn't follow through, do what you said you were going to do, were you a bit more on the hard, pushing, almost punishing end of the spectrum? And so now that you're aware of that, you get to make an intention. What's your intention moving forward? So now the next 7 days are your adventure. So we are going to have a little bit of time together in the Zoom call. And if you are listening to this via recording or via YouTube, this is now the time to press pause and give yourself some time to ask these 3 questions. So my encouragement, first of all, to you is to focus on you're doing enough. You are enough. No matter what you get done in the day, if you can start to come into a mental awareness of it's enough, then down into an emotional experience of, oh, I actually feel like I did enough. I feel like it's okay. I feel good about myself. No matter if you got 10% of what you wanted to get done or 200%, can you start to experience that was enough? There are always variables outside of my concern, and there are always invisible variables that are going on, hormones, chemicals, karma, past conditioning and trauma and difficult emotions that come up that can hold us back. So can we be kind and compassionate to ourselves that it's tough being human? It's hard. There is a lot going on for an adult human. So can we just be kind and compassionate to ourselves as we're moving forward on what matters? So my big encouragement is focus on, no matter what goes on throughout the day, is it enough? And the very simplest thing we can do is just at the end of the day, can we go through the day and just feel like it's enough? Right? What I like to do is there any part of my day where I can't just really naturally feel great about it and feel like it was enough? Right? And then maybe something pops into my mind. Oh, I didn't call my grandma. I'd feel terrible about that. Oh, Well, can I feel like it was enough? I do care and love about my grandma. I have an intention to call her. It's enough. What I got done today was enough. Can I let myself off the hook for that? So that is my encouragement. But now you've got some time and you've got as much time as you want. So we're going to do some of this together in the Zoom room. But if you're watching the recording, now is the time to pause and answer these 3 questions. How do you want to support yourself in feeling that you are enough? Get creative. Just be aware of what works for you in that sense. And then I want you to answer this question. How kind can you be? Can you really stretch yourself out? Really, just for 7 days, how kind can you be? Can you paint me that picture? Can you really describe just how kind and sweet and loving you can be? And then what brand of kindness do you need? Maybe you are really called to celebrate the small wins. You want rewards and like little cheerleading sessions. Maybe you want naps. Maybe you want more time with friends. Sometimes allowing love can be a little bit hard for people because I try not to lead you too much into a structured experience. I want you to genuinely ask these questions and more create your own experience for yourself. Ask yourself these questions. You will get profound answers from inside if you'll just let go and trust yourself.